Welcome to the Selling Show, where we unpack, repack, and break down exactly how top experts sell their ideas, their value, and their services. This is your host, David Newman, and you are in the right place if you want better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees. Relationships are really important. Now, you probably know that. You've probably heard that. But I'm not sure if you've ever met a guy who creates million-dollar relationships as his full-time 100% job, passion, mission, vision, and business. Well, you're going to meet him now, Mr. Kevin Thompson. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, David. It's an honor to be here. I'm looking forward to this today.
Let me ask you a question that I ask many of my celebrity guests, of which you are one. How did Kevin Thompson become Kevin Thompson? What brought you to the work that you're doing today, and what were some interesting pit stops along the way?
Sure. So my very first business venture, I used to own a carpet cleaning business. And I had worked for 7 years as a commercial fisherman on Alaska's Bering Sea to save up money to start that job. But little side trivia, not only did I work 7 years in one of the deadliest jobs on the world, I almost lost my life in 1995 on that fishing boat. That's what this scar on my chin is from. But I saved up money, started that business. Within a year, I had blown through $300,000 and still I just didn't know what I didn't know about running a business. And I found Joe Polish in a trade publication, and I responded to what he was offering. I ended up getting his help, and with his help, we completely transformed that business into a buy referral only company. And along the way, I started using the internet. I started one of probably the ugliest websites on the internet in 2000 called getmoldsolutions.com. You can still see remnants of that website there if you go there. Yeah. I keep it there. There's not a dang thing going on at that website these days. But back in the day, by 2003, that website was producing $13,000, $14,000 a month in revenue. And Joe Polish suggested, hey, Kev, why don't you come down here to the annual event in November and show everybody what you're doing with your website?
And Kevin, just to be clear, that website was selling products and kits and online marketing stuff.
Well, that website was actually, we sold mold test kits, mold cleaning products. Right. We started creating informational products. And then, Joe, he invited me to speak at his event. And he's like, and by the way, before you come, be sure to document what you do and how you do it with your website and put that into a course, because there's going to be a certain percentage of the people when they hear from you that they want your help, and just make sure you're ready to do that. And so I did. And I spoke at his event that year in November. And at the end of my presentation, I just said, hey, if what I shared resonates with you, if this feels like something that you might like my help with, here's what that looks like. Here's the investment. And we made $35,000 in sales of that course. And I was like, wow. And so long story short, that was in November of 2003. April 19th of 2004, I sold the cleaning and restoration business. We moved into the publishing business full time. Over the course of the next 12 years, I sold $16.1 million worth of that course. I did it through strategic partnering. I partnered with other people just like I did with Joe, where they would put me in front of their audience. In the early days, we did teleseminars. I did hundreds and hundreds of teleseminars.
Yeah.
And that's how I grew the business. We did almost 600 strategic partnerships over that 12 years. And that's where I really came to understand the value of relationships, the value of partnering, the value of doing what we say when we're going to say we're going to do it. When I partnered with people, when revenue was created, I shared revenue with them, and I always paid people quickly and took care of them just because they were all friends of mine. And along the way, I also found out that one of my unique abilities and God-given gifts was I love talking with entrepreneurs about what they're working on, what their challenges are, what their opportunities are. And I always default to like, oh, I should connect you with so-and-so because they could probably help you with that. And so I started making these connections. And the first big connection I made was 12 years ago, Perry Marshall and Brian Kurtz. Great things came from that. And that's what got me thinking, wouldn't it be cool if I had a business where I got to do that all the time? And it took some time for that seed to germinate. But now, today, that is what I get to do. I get to facilitate relationships that impact millions of people's lives. And of course, the natural byproduct of that is that millions of dollars in revenue is created. And yeah, every day I'm just like incredibly blessed to be able to hold that role and be that conduit of trust for the people in my life that I just love these entrepreneurs and appreciate what they're doing.
Amazing. So let's clarify a term, because I think folks have heard these terms and they're not even quite sure what they mean. But talk about strategic partnership, talk about joint venture, talk about affiliates. What was the evolution and how do you sort of separate how these relationships actually work commercially?
There's a lot of similarities between the three things. And a lot of people will intersperse joint venturing and strategic partnering. For me, it's more in the nuance in how I value the relationships. And in my life, I do look at the entrepreneurs I serve as partners. They're not just clients. I mean, they are kind of that, but they're more partners than clients. And I do not have a single partner / client that I work with that was not already a friend before I began serving them. And I would not have it any other way. So everybody that is in my world that I am closely tied to and actively engaged in serving, they're also friends. Friends first, then business. Yeah. And so in the world of joint venturing, affiliate world, a lot of times the players in that world, their big focus is on how much revenue they can create. And that has never been my focus, is on the revenue. My focus has been on how can I be of most service to people. If we go back to Joe, for example, the very first strategic partnership I ever did, and it just completely unfolded organically. Joe saw that I had something of value that he felt his people would benefit from. And so he invited me to come share and speak at his annual event. Well, him and I, there was zero conversation about we could make all this money together. And I will tell you that if Joe would have thought for 1 second that putting me in front of his people would damage the relationship that he had with those people, he would have never done that, regardless of how much revenue could have been produced. He would never do that. That is why that worked so well. That is why it unfolded so organically, so easily, just in flow. And that's how all of my strategic partnerships flowed over the years, was because the focus was not on how much money, how much revenue can we create. It was how can we combine our efforts so that together we can make a far bigger impact than either one of us could possibly do on our own.
Yeah.
And through that, if we get that right, and this works like we think it will, then revenue being produced is the natural byproduct of that. And so that is, for me, that's the big distinction that I make and I call it strategic partnering. And the big distinction is the focus is on making the impact, and then the natural byproduct of that is revenue gets created. It's not the other way around.
Yes, absolutely. So smart. We interrupt this interview with an important announcement. If you're committed to better clients, bigger deals, and higher fees, get over to doitselling.com right now and grab a copy of my new book. That's the deal, kids. grab a copy of the new book, and then get all the bonuses, companion tools, trainings, and downloads at doitselling.com. Buy the book, get the bonuses. Buy the book, get the bonuses. Buy the book, get the bonuses. That's how it works. I'll see you over there. This also reminds me, Kevin, of we had a guest on, I think it was episode 392, Pamela Slim, who wrote a fantastic book called The Widest Net. The Widest Net is all about building an ecosystem around your business of partners, affiliations, who else is serving that market. So, for example, let's say that there's a big trade association. You look in that trade association and you say, well, okay, in this trade association of my target market, who are the big exhibitors at their events? Who are the big sponsors? Who are the big advertisers in the magazine? Because those people, they want mind share and wallet share from the same target audience that I do. How can I reach out to those partners, those sponsors, those exhibitors, and those advertisers and say, hey, I can help you reach these same people by offering you some education, by offering them some value. And so now instead of them yet again pitching and peddling their products or book a demo, book a demo, book a demo, they now say, you know what? We're going to bring in Kevin Thompson. Kevin's doing an amazing webinar, an amazing strategic work session to help you with topic X. They look good, just like Joe looked good by putting you in front of his audience. These partners look like the hero to their audience and their prospects and their customer and client base. You get access to a ready-made audience that's ready to go, already in your niche, already hungry for the products and services and programs that you offer. And of course, the prospects and the clients and customers, they win because now through their relationship with the partner, they now have some amazing value brought to them by you. Yes. So this also, second thing it reminds me of is not just Pamela Slim and The Widest Net. I was teaching a little bit about this ecosystem. You know, we teach B2B corporate consultants how to land more clients, better deals, higher fees, etc. I said, we all need to develop an ecosystem around our consulting practice. And I said, you know who's really mastered this? Salesforce, salesforce.com. They literally have 11,000 partners. These are not employees. These are not consultants. These are partner companies in the entire Salesforce ecosystem that either talk to Salesforce, are compatible with Salesforce, add something onto Salesforce, Salesforce adds something onto them. Imagine having 11,000 partners promoting your product, your brand, your value proposition. And there's so many books now. I mean, dude, you are 20 years ahead of the game. I just looked on Amazon in preparation for our chat today. There's probably maybe only 10. There's 10 books on the power of partnership marketing and partnership selling. 9 of those 10 books, or maybe all 10, 9 of those 10 books are aimed at guess who? Big giant companies like Salesforce. They are not doing what you're already 20 years ahead of doing, which is entrepreneur to entrepreneur partnership. I don't think that book has been written. So if you want like a task
there you go.
For next year, my friend, I think Kevin Thompson might be coming out with a partnership book at some point soon. But I'm just saying that this is an idea whose moment has come and you are totally on top of it. You've been 20 years ahead of it. Tell us a little bit about what are people's, like your clients, when they come into your ecosystem, what are they afraid of? What are some myths around partnerships, or what is there any bad taste in people's mouths from JVs who might not have delivered, or if they've gotten burned with affiliates and affiliates never do the work, etc.? What are some of the fears and some of the baggage around this?
Well, yes, you've certainly, a lot of people have had the experience of partnering with somebody on whatever project, what that might have looked like, and the person or company that they partnered with was not in alignment and not in integrity. And so maybe they weren't treated the way they were promised that they would. Maybe they weren't compensated the way that they were supposed to have been compensated. So that gives them a bad taste in their mouths. Especially the more successful an entrepreneur becomes, the bigger their business grows, the smaller their circle of people becomes, of people that they can truly trust and confide in stuff. And so just being able, I mentioned, that I kind of I am the role of this conduit of trust for people that I serve. Now, that's not to say that I'm perfect and that I have never made a mistake in making connections, because I certainly have. Because people are people, and, I can't always control how people will react. But what I will tell you is that nobody in my world who knows me, and I've got relationships spanning back 20 plus years at this point, there will be nobody that says that guy, Kevin. If I had a buddy of mine, Glenn, time say that, Kevin, if anybody ever said anything negative to me about you, I would question them, not you. And, that right there, it's not so much reputation so much as it is just who we are and how we show up. That matters. And that people know they can count on us, because there's a lot of people in their lives that they can't count on. And the more successful an entrepreneur gets, the more people that want something from them. And they totally feel that. And here's another big thing. I used to deal with this big time. All my life, I have been this giving, generous person. I love helping other people. As a general rule, most entrepreneurs are that way, especially entrepreneurs who are focused on using their businesses to make their biggest impact. They are giving, generous people. But the 80-20 rule applies here, where about 80% of them are not good at receiving, and much less good at proactively asking for what they want. And I used to think that, that might apply in most cases, but when a really successful entrepreneur, they've got this all figured out. No, they don't. 80-20 still applies regardless of how successful an entrepreneur is. And so a big part of my world, and really for many of these entrepreneurs, their biggest opportunity is expanding their receiving muscle. And just little steps, just little teeny easy things to just let them expand their receiving muscle, because when they can receive more, when they can have that, because they've already got the infrastructure, the foundation, and all that built. They're already resourceful. They already have resources. They already have connections, but they just haven't been showing up the way they'd really like to, for whatever reason. And this used to be my own thing too. And 11 years ago, a friend of mine helped me out with this. And ever since, I have been on this experience, if you will, to just see how much can I receive. And the cool thing about receiving more is the more we're able to receive, the more we're able to give as well. And so that's the other big thing that comes up with these entrepreneurs.
So tell me a little bit about the empire as it stands today. I know that there are very strict admission criteria. You do not work with everyone. You work with the high end of the entrepreneurial market. But tell us a little bit about what are some of the services, programs, what is on the menu for the folks that do qualify to work with you?
Well, so this is really easy. I mean, in the simplest of terms, what I do is I put people in the right environment to have the right conversations with the right people for the right reason. That's it. When I facilitate that, and you do that, what magic happens. Because when everybody, and I mean everybody in the space, shows up to contribute, to help, to serve, to pour into each other, that's just how they show up. And everybody shows up that way. And if anything, everybody in that space is working intentionally at expanding their receiving muscle as well.
Yeah.
But when everybody shows up to contribute, to help, to serve, what happens is, for one, because they're under this umbrella and trust is such a big deal, well, there is that transfer of trust. Yeah. And when there is trust in two things, when there is trust in character and there is trust in competence, that we just know that this person, they got my back. I know they're there for me. They want the best for me. That is trust in character. Trust in competence is we just know they are world class at whatever it is that they do. So when they are talking about their subject matter that they have spent who knows how many years doing, we just know, yep, this person knows what they're talking about. We are totally trust in their competence. Yeah. When those two trusts are in place, trust in character and competence, there is zero friction. And lack of trust is always the friction that just kind of slows everything down. But when there's zero friction, now all of a sudden, everything just happens in flow. It's easy. It happens quickly. Stuff just happens because there's trust and character and competence. And so my job is I provide that space. I provide that environment. I curate the right people. And then I provide the space for them to have those kinds of conversations. Because what comes from that, like I said, it's magic. It happens every single time. And that's how real, meaningful, rewarding, and profitable relationships are created.
I know that I'm just channeling our listeners, and I know they're saying, well, this sounds amazing. This sounds fantastic. But how does Kevin make money? So is it a membership? Is it a mentoring? Is it a mastermind? Is it a revenue share on the deals that happen? Kind of what's the money flow and how?
Yeah. So there is an annual membership to be a part of the community. And then also there is a mutually agreed upon revenue share. And, when I was in the publishing company and I did, almost 600 strategic partnerships over 12 years, I was the one handling the money. And I always, because I valued my partners so much, and I knew that without them helping me, my business would not be growing like it was. Yeah. So I just had a whole lot of appreciation for my partners, and I understood the value of that relationship, and I treated it accordingly. Yeah. And one of the things that I did all those years was I overnighted checks to my partners all the time. That created an experience for sure. In fact, I became known for that. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool in me doing this? Wouldn't it be cool to operate and serve people who place the same kind of value on the relationship with me, that they would just want to do that too? Not share out of a sense of obligation, but share because they value the role that I hold in their life, just like my partners I held for them. And so there is a revenue share, and I say it's mutually agreed upon, but my partners actually choose it. It's typically between 10 to 20%. I don't really care what the revenue share is. I let them choose it, and we make a very important point of talking about that, whatever we agree to on the way in the door, if this isn't working for you down the road for whatever reason, let me know. Let's revisit the conversation. Let's make adjustments, because this is about long-term relationships far over short-term profits. And it is about attracting the right people who they are people of integrity that show up that way too. Because I don't chase down money from anybody. People are happy to compensate me, just like I was happy to compensate my partners all those years. And I will tell you that the revenue from the revenue shares, that's the real source of revenue, not the annual membership.
Now, that makes a ton of sense. And again, just for the benefit of the folks that are not familiar with these JV affiliate relationships, I think what you're saying, Kevin, is when you say, hey, let's revisit this, it's not that, hey, I'm paying Kevin 20%. I kind of feel like paying him 10. That's not what we're talking about. Let's say that we start selling a digital course, and a digital course takes 0% of your time, effort, energy. So you say, Kevin, here's the deal. We're going to do 20% on the course sales. But then you start selling coaching, or then you start selling a live event, or then you start selling a consulting program. And so a consulting program takes way more of your time than a digital course. In that relationship, tell you what, let's take the 20 down to 10, right? If we're doing an event may have even more overhead. Tell you what, let's do the event at 5% or whatever the numbers make sense. So as these relationships start to expand, can we do this offer? Can we do that kind of offer? Can we start promoting this kind of thing? Because people are then hungry for more and bigger and better, but the revenue share on a purely digital course is going to be different than the revenue share on a year-long, very labor-intensive consulting engagement. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. And I will tell you that in these relationships, I do have contracts with everybody that I serve. There is very little talk about the revenue share. In fact, you know what? Even when I did that very first strategic partnership with Joe, him and we did not talk about the revenue at all. And in fact, the week before the event, when I was scheduled to go speak at that event, I called his office. I talked with his assistant, Eunice, and I was like, Eunice, so Joe's got me speaking at the event next week. And he told me that, to create this course and have it ready to go. I said, I've never even done this before. I don't even know how this works. Can you help me out? And she was like, well, Kevin, normally the way it works is, Joe has invested the money to do all the marketing to get everybody there. And so usually when, he does have a speaker that is offering something, he usually does a 50-50 revenue share with them. And so I was like, oh, okay, that sounds good to me. And so that's what we did. And Joe and we never even talked about it between us. I asked his assistant and stuff,
Right.
And people who are focused on making impact, I will tell you that, I was just talking with a gentleman last week that runs business on a what I would consider a large scale. These entrepreneurs, they don't talk about revenue hardly at all. They talk about results. They talk about and the revenue piece is kind of like it was kind of like Eunice and I having that conversation. It was like, oh, this is how it works, and there's very little conversation around that because the conversation is around making the impact, and so not much conversation needs to be around the revenue piece because the revenue is the natural byproduct, and people who know how to make money and create revenue and create value, they just know how to do that stuff. Yeah.
Right, exactly. This reminds me the fact that you were known as the guy that overnighted the checks. I've done probably dozens and dozens. I haven't done hundreds, but I've done dozens and dozens of partnerships and joint ventures. One partner stands out, and I think you'll resonate with the come from on this. We were promoting a digital course, their program, which was really, really good. I mean, like you said, I believed in this guy. I believed in the course. I had bought the course, so I had firsthand experience that it was awesome and amazing. And so we did a big webinar. We sold about $30,000 of the course, and it was a 50-50 revenue share. He says, David, what we used to do is we used to say, here's the numbers, here's the affiliate tracking software, here's all the stats. We have a 30-day refund window. Before, what we used to do is wait the 30 days, take out the refunds, and then pay you what's left. He says, we don't do that anymore. We sold $30,000 of stuff to your audience. You promoted it. You were on the webinar. You teed me up with an amazing intro. You were there for the call to action. You encouraged people, sign up, get the bonuses, make this happen. Folks, I did it. You need to do it. You were such an advocate and such a champion. we are going to pay you the full 50% right now. So 15,000 out of the 30,000. If they don't like the course, that's on us. That's not on you. So we're going to eat that. We're going to eat that solo. You're getting your full 50% revenue share right here, right now. The next morning, the PayPal was in my PayPal account for the full amount. So that's the kind, when you say that's a partnership, that's a partnership.
Yes. Relationships are the value. And as entrepreneurs, if we really understand this and we really get it, we do come to realize that relationships are the most valuable asset that we possess. Everything else stems from that.
Wait. We're not just going to listen to this episode. There are downloads, there are resources, there are links, there are bonuses waiting for you on this episode's page when you go over to doitmarketing.com/podcast. That's right, doitmarketing.com/podcast. Grab the notes right under this episode. See you over there. Which brings us to your amazing podcast, $1 Million Relationships. Talk a little bit about how that podcast started, how you envisioned it supporting the business, and where it is today as far as a piece of your empire.
So when we launched that podcast 2.5 years ago, hosting a podcast, David, was not even on my radar. I was down in San Diego having lunch with my friend Brad Costanzo, and he was the one that suggested, he's like, Kev, for a guy like you who values relationships so much, you should seriously consider hosting a podcast. And he has a podcast, and he's had it for a number of years. It's called Bacon Wrapped Business. And you can tell from the name that Brad is just an easygoing, fun-loving guy. He's also a brilliant strategist. And he's like, and Kevin, you won't mess it all up trying to figure out how to monetize it. But yet you will. He's like, you totally will monetize it, but it's just going to happen organically. And I'm like, okay. I was like, Brad, I'm with you, but also, what is my topic? What am I going to do? And he's like, Kevin, you are going to talk with entrepreneurs about their most valuable relationships. And I was like, that sounds good. I'm like, man, that sounds like a lot of fun right there. So I told him, I said, you know what? I said, I'm going to come home. I'm going to go home. I'm going to reach out to some friends of mine, and I'm just going to hop on Zoom and have a conversation with them and tell them, hey, I'm thinking about hosting a podcast. I want to have a conversation, record it, and just have the experience. And so I reached out to about, 5, 6, 7 friends, and we did it. And it was such an amazing experience, David. And not only for me, but for them getting to honor these people who had had such a profound impact on their lives, on their businesses. For some of them, it got incredibly emotional telling these stories. And then as I started sharing these interviews with other people, other entrepreneurs, they're like, wow, it started inspiring them to place an intentional focus on creating more real, meaningful, rewarding, and profitable relationships in their own lives. And what I didn't say, there's all kinds of things that have come from this. One of the biggies is that each individual podcast interview, because they're all about 20, 30 minutes in length, each one becomes a standalone tool now as well. Beyond just being a podcast that gets put out there, for me, being the guy who facilitates all these relationships, I now have this body of work of all these interviews that I just had a conversation with a gal yesterday saying, hey, I want to connect you with so-and-so. And you know what? I interviewed them for the podcast. Here, let me grab the link to their podcast interview. Go check that out. I think you are really going to like what they're all about. And she did. She checked it out and she got back. She goes, Kevin, you ain't kidding. Man, I would love to meet Ben. Yeah. And so it's become this amazing tool as well. So, totally, and I can tell you so many things that have come from hosting the podcast.
So because this is your natural area of brilliance, I think you got this term the last time we talked, you shared it with me, effortless excellence.
Yeah.
Because you hosting that show and you doing the work that you are doing with your clients, that is totally 100% effortless excellence. Talk about what that is.
So, and I need to give proper credit to where that came from, because this is very recent. I saw a post that my friend Josh Long put on Facebook talking about that. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's it right there. And it's like, I've heard Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach, I have learned the term unique ability from him years ago. But this effortless excellence, because this thing that we do, whatever our natural God-given gifts, our unique ability, the thing or things that we do that are just completely effortless for us. So for me, having conversations like this with you, David, talking with any entrepreneur for that matter about what they do, I am absolutely fascinated by that. I ask so many questions because I'm naturally curious. For me to be in a conversation and then have them share what they're working on, what challenges they're dealing with, what opportunities they're trying to take advantage of. And I just naturally default to, oh, so-and-so could help you with that. I could totally get you connected with them. And, oh, you know what? I also did a podcast interview with them. Don't check this podcast interview out with them. And if that resonates with you, if you feel like they're in alignment and you feel the same way, I totally would get you guys connected.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff is so easy for me. I love doing it. I get so much joy, so much satisfaction, and quite honestly, would do it for free, which would be a big mistake, because that is the way that I am able to deliver so much value to the right people. I am immensely valuable to the right people.
Oh my gosh. So good. That nugget there, that it's easy for me. I would do it for free, but that would be a huge mistake. That is totally in alignment, because I tell my clients this all the time. You will have the greatest impact and make the most money with what comes easily to you and is difficult for others. But we don't see that it's difficult for others, because to us, it's like breathing. It's like taking a walk in the park. It's like taking a shower. Like, come on, doesn't everyone take a shower? Well, everyone does take a shower, but everyone does not know what you know. Everyone does not do what you do. Everyone does not have the skills that you have. When you're using that effortless excellence, it does not feel like work, even though that is your absolute highest value in the marketplace. Yeah. That's what's going to 10x your revenue and 10x your income, is doing that. And you've said this now a couple of times, and I want to reiterate for listeners, doing it for the right people, in the right way, at the right time, for the right reason, with big, beautiful compensation that is win-win across the board. Because the more they pay, the more they listen, the more they implement, the more they profit, the more results they get. You make a beautiful living. Your partners make a beautiful living. Your clients make a beautiful living. The high tide raises all the boats. And yes, it's easy for you, but you've also evolved to the point where you realize, wait a minute, this is not easy for a lot of other people. In fact, 98% of other people, this is kind of the mystery of life. You've got the key to the mystery of life, which is awesome, amazing, longstanding relationships, and how to enrich those and how to monetize those and how to make the world a better place, actually. Yeah. It's not, the money is the beginning. I love what you said earlier about, we don't talk about the money. The money's kind of a by the way. It's the value, it's the impact, it's the fun, it's the collaboration, it's the longstanding friendships that develop. That's why the game is worth playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good. Well, I know people will want to connect with you. How do people get more Kevin Thompson brilliance? Where can we send them? What links should go in the show notes?
Connect with me on Facebook, Kevin the Connector on Facebook. Hit me up, shoot me a friend request. Tell me, if you picked up something from here that was valuable for you, that just really resonated on a personal level, I would absolutely love to hear about that. So yeah, that's the easiest way right there.
Kevin Thompson, you're a beautiful man. I appreciate you. I am so glad that the universe connected us, and I'm looking forward to much more fun ahead.
Absolutely. Same.
And that wraps up another episode of The Selling Show. Hey, tell you what, if you like us, rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe, tell a friend, go grab the notes and downloads and extras at thesellingshow.com. See you next time.